This is going to be your guide to the Great Sky Island in Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. First things first, this is the tutorial area. If you played Breath of the Wild, it's just the Great Plateau with a new coat of paint, as well as some story beforehand. You aren't just immediately thrust into the world, you actually get to find out some really cool things about what is going on. When you get there, it might take a little while and then you realize, yes, this game is just going to teach you how the open world works. Good way of looking at it is that it's the game before the game. That also doesn't mean that you don't need this guide, because there can be some places where it gets a little confusing or it might trip you up, and that is what this video is for. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and comment your tips and thoughts down below. Now, the first couple of minutes are pretty foolproof, and my recommendation is to go straight to the Temple of Time, but pay attention to what's going on, because it shows how the game flow works. Talk to an NPC, there's a cutscene, there's some dialogue, tells you where to go to that marker. If you're not able to progress, the game will tell you what you need to do to progress, and while it is, again, foolproof and pretty simple, the faster you get through this part, the more you're going to enjoy your experience. Don't get distracted just yet. And my further recommendation is to complete your first shrine as quickly as possible, because then you start unlocking abilities, you get more interaction with the world, and then that's where the exploration and the discovery really opens up. If you're worried about rushing through the game, don't be. There's a lot of distractions when going from shrine to shrine, and there's even puzzles that are like an extension of the shrine, so there's still enough to do, and it wouldn't hurt you to kind of pick up the pace. Also, it'll kind of remove some frustration points where you say, oh, I saw this in a gameplay demo, or this was in one of the trailers, where do I get it? Why don't I have access to it? This is where you get all of your core gameplay mechanics, so the faster you unlock it, the more you can just kind of do everything in the Great Sky Island, and you can still stick around there for a bit, find all the little secrets, and then familiarize yourself with how the game is going to play. Now, this is where I also have some advice for Breath of the Wild and experienced players. Warning, your experience might backfire on you. It's easy to overthink things when we're still in just a starting area and everything is going to be really basic. Because the game says, hey, look through your tablet, mark some shrines on the map, go to those shrines. Well, I only saw 3 shrines, and that felt like it wasn't enough shrines. No, there's only 3 shrines initially. So that's just an example of how the game does things a little differently than what you might be expecting coming straight out of Breath of the Wild. And if you haven't played Breath of the Wild in a while, it's worth talking to the NPCs and getting that game information refreshed in your mind. That I forgot how to cook. I saw a fire under a pot, and I'm like, alright, here's a cooking pot. What button do I press? You know, I pressed like the up button, then I looked around, I was like, I just can't interact and drop food in. That's because you need to go to your menu, hold the food, throw it in the pot. I forgot, like, that was the interaction, and it's the same interaction. It's not like you walk up to the pot and then it just, like, brings you to a cooking interface. If you forgot those little details or you have different expectations because it's a newer game, you might get tripped up just a little bit, so that's something to look out for if you're experienced with Breath of the Wild. Now, this is part of the video where things get a bit more walkthrough, so if you want to try to figure it out for yourself first, then you can pause the video or come back to it later if you still need to figure out what's going on. One thing that seems to trip up a lot of people is getting through the cold. That you're thinking, oh, maybe I run through it, maybe I try to tank it with some food and heal up a little bit extra, but all you need to do is make food. That there is a warming food in the game, and by cooking the right ingredients, you can then make a food that gives you immunity to the cold. And if you're looking for that, you just need to kind of follow the path. There's going to be a cave that has a cooking pot in it. Outside of that, and also around it, you have peppers. Peppers, spicy food, spicy equals hot, hot, cook it, that gives you the cold immunity. Again, the game explains a lot of things, so just try to find like the NPC nearby, because this is the tutorial area. You can pretty much figure everything out for yourself, but again, if you get a little too overconfident, or if you skip over some dialogue, or if you're not paying enough attention, then it can actually become frustrating. You might get lost for a couple minutes. Now, because this is an open world game, there can be multiple ways of getting to the next area, especially with the building mechanic. That what you can do is try to look for a path that you can actually climb up on, maybe gotta cheese like a couple of angles, use your stamina bar to the max and then you can still make it, or you just build a ladder out of logs and then you can climb up that way. And when it comes to contraptions, as long as you use some common sense and the game's advice, you just kind of build whatever you want, and if it works, it works. Now, once you make it back to the Temple of Time and you're instructed to find the 4th shrine, here's where you learn a very important thing about the game, or here's where you need to understand a very important thing about the game. It's all a puzzle. It's a puzzle getting to the shrine. You're not only going to find puzzles inside of dungeons and inside of shrines, there could be some like tricky little ways of finding secret areas inside the game. So you need to look for things that you've already been shown. Hey, we got one of those wheels that's in the Temple of Time, and we just reversed the wheels to progress. So right there, in the starting area, the 4th shrine was hidden there all along. So if you get lost because you run out, you try to like circle around through the map, and you're climbing up and down, and you're trying to like build things to get to the area, that might be overthinking it. Or, again, if you have played the game, you can kind of spot those patterns, you might immediately look over there and go, oh, that's where I need to go. But it could be just like an either hiding in plain sight thing, or an overthinking and missing the obvious solution to an overworld puzzle. Welcome to Legend of Zelda. If this is your first Zelda game, or you're not that experienced with the franchise, there's going to be a lot of this, so you gotta start working on that big brain time, and then you can start progressing through, start to make sense of what's going on, and you eventually jump off of the Great Sky Island. But that is not the end of the effective tutorial for the game. Again, if you played Breath of the Wild, you might be missing some pieces. That's where you can overthink. Just keep continuing through the story. Eventually, you unlock the towers, you get the paraglider, you start to understand a bit more about what's going on, and then the game unlocks. So you need to get through all this stuff, and then you start getting that true open world, do anything however you want kind of experience, and it's just kind of getting through that, understanding what the game wants, maybe a little bit of advice to figure out what's going on, and then you are free to move about the cabin. But also, like I said, you don't have to rush it. You can do all the shrines, you can get that reverse time going on, then you can just kind of stay in the Great Sky Island. I also recommend it because there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of enemies. You can get your combat training down, kind of refamiliarize yourself with Breath of the Wild mechanics if that's what you need to do because you haven't played in a while, farm up some resources, and then you can really crush it when you crash down into Hyrule. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please comment your thoughts down below. Did I do a good job explaining? Do you even want me to explain it even more because you still get a little lost or a little confused? And like I said in the beginning, are there any other tips you have for like kind of the early areas or just the game in general? If you're progressing through, you come back to this video and go, yo, learn this thing. The sooner you find out, the better. I would love to hear it. And just to make sure I'm getting full completeness for this video, in case it's Timmy's first Zelda, in case it's Timmy's first open world, I'm going to show you guys the trick of the shrine, and that's also kind of how the shrines are going to work. That there's going to be quizzes and then the test. You learn the mechanic, and then they're going to try to do like one interesting way of applying the mechanic in a more critical way, and that's going to be how you complete the shrine. Like with the cart puzzle, the shrines teach you there's also a trick to making it work. That physics still apply. Just because you have the right idea for a vehicle doesn't mean you're actually doing it properly. This needs to be balanced or else it's going to drag and then it doesn't really work. Unless you cheese it, I guess. Like, I want to push the limits of what this game will allow. Oh! Yeah! Thought so! I did not deserve the success music for that. Somehow. So, like, do we pull it out? And then fuse? Oh. Oh. And then it shows us which one with our active. And then we got damage. And now we go BAM! So, bow, material, fire fruit. There we go. Boom. That means we did it. Uh-oh, my boulder hammer's damaged. Never mind, we win. So yeah, that thing, like, just barely doesn't one-shot you. So we got a rock hammer compared to our, like, crazy rock sword. There's just leaves on the ground. I guess they also want us to just, like, light that thing on fire. You can approach it however you want. And there goes the hammer. Okay. Got an IQ above room temp, so figured that one out. Thought they were gonna make me put the other pieces together. Oh, moving target, interesting. Ah. Okay. It's more forgiving than it looks. You just gotta hit it at the right time. And another trick to recall is timing is everything. Just because you can rewind time doesn't mean like, oh, there's a thing I can recall. I just do it and it works. Nah, you have to do it at the right time, and that will save you some frustration. So there we go, guys. Hope you all enjoy the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.